Hey everyone, Tony Walsh here and welcome back to the channel. Today is June 20th and that means it's Father's Day, and that's what I want us to talk about. So the nation's first Father's Day was celebrated on June 19th in 1910 in the state of Washington. However, it was not until 1972, some 58 years after President Woodrow Wilson made Mother's Day official, so it took 58 years. After President Wilson made Mother's Day official, then fathers had a nationwide holiday in the United States. But the campaign to celebrate the nation's fathers did not meet with the same enthusiasm. Perhaps, as one florist put it, fathers have that same sentimental appeal that mothers have. Fathers haven't the same sentimental appeal. In other words, our kids just don't feel about us the same way they do about their mothers. But on July 5th in 1908, a West Virginia church sponsored the nation's first event explicitly in the honor of fathers. It was a Sunday sermon in memory of the 362 men who died in the previous December's explosions at the Fairmont Coal Company mines in Monograph, West Virginia. But it was a one-time commemoration and not an annual holiday as it is today. But the next year, a woman named Sonora Smart Dodd, who was one of 6 children raised by a widower, in other words, no mother, 6 children raised by a father, she tried to establish an official equivalent to Mother's Day for the male parents. She went to her local churches, YMCA, shopkeepers, and government officials to drum up support, to get backing for her idea, and she was successful. Washington State celebrated the nation's first Father's Day on June 19th, 1910, and slowly the holiday spread. It was then in 1916 that President Wilson honored the day by using telegraph signals to unfurl a flag in Spokane when he pressed a button in Washington, D.C. In 1924, President Calvin Coolidge urged state governments to observe Father's Day. But Father's Day had some then, and it still has some today, some controversy because of its commercialism. As one historian wrote, fathers scoffed at the holiday's sentimental attempts to domesticate manliness with flowers and gift-giving, or they derided the proliferation of such holidays as a commercial gimmick to sell more products that were often paid by the father themselves. You know, there's nothing like buying your own gift, and that's sarcastic. Then World War II began. Advertisers began to argue and celebrating Father's Day was a way to honor the American troops and support the war effort. By the end of the war, Father's Day may not have been a federal holiday, but it was a national institution. In 1972, in the middle of a hard-fought presidential re-election campaign, then President Richard Nixon signed a proclamation making Father's Day a federal holiday. And today, economists estimate that Americans spend more than $1 billion each year on Father's Day's gifts. Okay, this here is a picture of my birth father, Raymond Walsh Sr. He and my mother divorced when I was real young, so I never really had a father-son type relationship with him, as he passed away in my early 20s, and I was living in Georgia, he was living in Michigan. But I'm glad, though, of the siblings that I have from him. I have a brother, and I have a half-sister and a half-brother, and we all get along great, just like we're all blood. This here is a picture of my first stepfather, Verley Lee. He raised me from a small child until he died in my early 20s. It was he who taught me to play baseball. It was he who taught me to hunt. It was he who taught me to fish. And I'm grateful that he raised me as his own flesh and blood. After he died a few years later, my mother remarried again to this man, a man named Tom Gray. Papa Tom, as the grandkids called him, has since passed away as well, but this man loved us and he treated us and the grandkids as we were his own. and we are thankful that we had this time on earth with him. Now this here is Jackie's father, the late Mike Anderson. Even though he was my father-in-law, he taught me many things, mostly on being a godly man. Yes, now Jackie and I went to church when we were early in our marriage, and obviously we still go today. But it was my father-in-law that taught me what it was to be part of and in the church. And for that, I'm forever grateful. Now there are a couple of scriptures in God's holy word that talk about fatherhood. Proverbs chapter 20, verse 7 says, "This man walketh in his integrity, his children are blessed within him." Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6 says, "Fathers, so train up a child in the way he should go, even when he is old, he will not depart from it." Us as fathers, we have work to do. It's more than just birthing children. It's raising them and teaching them the right from wrong. To all the fathers, to all the stepfathers out there today, if you have raised or are still raising your children, your grandchildren, or someone else's child, I thank you for being the man you are. Take care and have a blessed day.